Have you ever felt like your mind is just, well, noisy? Or maybe like certain desires just seem to pull you in directions you don't actually want to go, almost like you're not fully in control? Well, today, we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating ancient wisdom. We're looking at a specific collection of texts called the Kilesavaggo. That translates roughly as the section on defilements.
Right. And defilements in this context, it refers to these mental impurities, maybe obstacles, you could say,
Mhm.
that subtly cloud the mind. They're basically what get in the way of real clarity, deeper understanding, and genuine well-being.
Exactly. And our mission today really is to unpack how one very specific kind of desire gets flagged again and again in these texts. It's called chandarogo, often translated as desire passion. And these sources identify it repeatedly across almost every aspect of our experience as a direct defilement of the mind. So, okay, let's really dig into that core idea, this desire passion as a defilement. The way these texts keep coming back to it is pretty striking. What is it about this specific kind of desire that makes it so problematic, according to these teachings?
Well, what's fascinating, I think, is just how precise these texts are. They really pinpoint the kind of desire that becomes an issue.
Ah,
Chandrago, it's not just a simple wish or a casual preference.
right.
It's more like desire, passion, maybe lust, or even attachment. It implies an intensity, often a kind of clinging quality. And the other key term, opaculiso, yes, that means a defilement or an impurity of the mind.
Okay.
And that phrase you hear over and over, yobikave, ex chandrago, sitasi sobikileso,
Yeah.
which basically means monks, whatever desire, passion there is for X that is a defilement of the mind.
Hmm.
It just highlights how pervasive this is seen to be. It's also worth mentioning these particular discourses were given in Savathi,
Ah, okay.
which just gives it a bit of historical context, grounds these ideas.
And that precision you mentioned, that's really key, isn't it? Because, I mean, for anyone listening, figuring out which desires are problematic versus maybe healthy or neutral, that's crucial. These texts aren't just giving a vague warning. They seem to offer a really specific analysis. How do they break down where this desire passion actually shows up?
Exactly. They're incredibly systematic about it. It's quite remarkable. They consistently break down our entire experience into these recurring sets of sixes, and they show how this desire passion can kind of infiltrate every single layer.
Sixes. Okay, so where do they start?
Well, they often start with maybe the most relatable area, how we perceive the world through our senses.
Okay, makes sense.
So we're talking about the six sense organs, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and importantly, the mind itself is a sense organ.
Right.
And the texts are really clear. They state that desire passion for these organs themselves is a defilement. So there's a line, kakuzmio chandarago, desire passion for the eye, that itself is called out.
Huh. For the eye itself, not just what you see with it.
Exactly. And then they extend it to the six corresponding sense objects, forms we see, sounds we hear, smells, tastes, things we touch or feel, and mental phenomena, ideas, thoughts, memories.
So let me see if I've got this. It's saying that desire, passion for what you see, like forms or rupa, or what you hear, sounds, sada, or even for the eye or the ear itself, that's considered a defilement of the mind.
Precisely. The implication is quite profound, actually. It suggests that it's not just what you desire out there in the world, but even a kind of clinging attachment to the very tools we use to perceive that world, our eyes, our ears, that can subtly distort our reality and, well, ultimately lead to suffering or unease.
That makes sense. If you're overly attached to your sight, for example, the fear of losing it could become a huge source of suffering separate from whatever you're actually seeing.
Exactly. It's about how that attachment, whether it's to the input or the instrument, clouds our judgment.
Okay. So we've covered how this desire passion can affect our interaction with the external world, right down to the sense organs. But you said the analysis goes deeper. They don't stop there.
No, they definitely don't. It goes much deeper. They actually dissect the very process of how we experience anything at all. It's like peeling back the layers of consciousness itself.
The process itself. Okay, how does that work?
Well, they show how this clinging desire, this chandarago, can attach itself to each stage within the process of experiencing something, not just the end object.
Okay. Give me an example.
Right. So think about seeing something.
Yeah.
First, there's the eye and the form. Then arises consciousness, just the basic visual awareness.
Okay.
From that meeting of the three organ, object consciousness comes contact, or phasa.
Right.
Then, inevitably, a feeling, vedana, arises from that contact, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. That feeling leads to perception, sign you're recognizing or labeling what it is.
Yeah.
Like that's a blue car.
Got it.
Next comes intention, thatan, the sort of mental impulse or volition related to it, maybe the intention to look closer or look away, and even craving itself, Tana, which can arise in response to the feeling. Now, the texts are saying the desire passion, Chandrarago, for any of these internal stages, for the consciousness, the contact, the feeling, the perception, the intention, that itself is a defilement.
Wow, that's really subtle. So it's not just wanting the pleasant feeling, but potentially being attached to the awareness itself, or the act of perceiving.
Exactly. It raises these fascinating questions like, what does it even mean to have desire passion for consciousness or for contact? It's just a very, very subtle level of attachment, a clinging to the very mechanics of being conscious, of experiencing not just the objects we experience. It's quite insightful, really.
It really is. It's like
Yeah.
looking under the hood of the mind. So, okay, we've got the senses, the sense objects, the whole internal process of experiencing. Does it go even further? What about like the fundamental nature of reality or even our sense of self?
It does. You'd think they'd covered everything, but no.
Right.
The analysis expands again to cover what you could call the fundamental building blocks of reality and identity.
Okay, like,
They discuss the 6 elements, or dhatu: earth, water, fire, wind, space, and consciousness itself as an element.
the classical elements.
Yes, and the texts explicitly state, desire, passion for any of these fundamental elements is a defilement. Yopathavita tuya chandarago, and so on for each element.
So being attached to the idea of earth or fire?
Or even to consciousness as a fundamental element. And then, perhaps even more personally, they bring in the 5 aggregates, or khandhas.
The aggregates, form, feeling, perception.
Exactly. Form, feeling, perception, volitional formations, which are like mental habits or fabrications, sankara, and consciousness again, vinya. These are often seen as the core components of what we mistakenly take to be a permanent self.
Right.
And, you guessed it, desire, passion, chandarago, for any of these 5 aggregates is also identified as a defilement of the mind.
The sheer breadth of that is kind of astounding. It's gone from seeing an object through the whole process of perception right down to the elements of the universe and the components of what feels like me.
Precisely. It really covers everything. It suggests that this clinging, this desire passion, isn't just about external things or pleasant feelings. It can be an attachment to our very constitution, to the fundamental aspects of existence, and that clinging itself hinders deeper understanding.
So let's try and bring this all together. We've looked at, 10 different suttas or discourses here, all within this Kilesavaggo section.
That's right, covering those different sets of 6s and the 5 aggregates.
And across all of them, from our basic senses right down to the elements and aggregates, we find this incredibly consistent message. Yo, Chandarago, Satasaso Upakileso. This specific kind of desire passion is a defilement.
That repetition, that consistent pattern, really underscores how central this concept was seen to be. It highlights the pervasive nature of this particular kind of desire across every facet of human experience, from the really obvious, gross level down to the incredibly subtle.
Yeah.
Its role as a key impediment to mental clarity.
And it's not just about pointing out the problem, is it? The texts also talk about what happens when these defilements are dealt with. There's a positive outcome.
Absolutely. There's a very specific and profound benefit described. When the mind is free from these particular defilements, specifically the ones rooted in Chandarago,
Yes.
the text says their mind inclines towards renunciation. The Pali is nekamanina kasachita.
Renunciation. Now, that word can sometimes sound a bit extreme, maybe, like giving everything up.
It can, but in this context, it's often interpreted less as literal external renunciation of possessions, though it can include that and more as an internal state. A deep detachment from harmful clinging, a letting go of that intense desire passion we've been discussing. It's about the mind naturally leaning away from grasping.
Okay, so an internal shift. And what does that lead to? What's the ultimate outcome of a mind inclined towards this kind of renunciation?
The texts state that a mind imbued with renunciation, free from these specific defilements, becomes fit for direct knowledge. That's the phrase, abhinyasachikarañasudamasuti. It means the mind becomes capable of realizing, through direct experience, things that are to be known, profound insights, truths about reality, maybe spiritual realizations that go beyond ordinary conceptual understanding.
So clearing away this desire passion isn't just about feeling less agitated. It actually prepares the mind for a deeper kind of seeing.
That's exactly the implication. It's presented as clearing the ground, removing the obstacles so the mind can function at its highest potential and perceive reality more clearly as it truly is, unclouded by that clinging desire.
Wow. Okay, so today we've taken quite a journey through this Kilesavaggo, this section on defilements. We've seen how systematically these ancient sources link this specific desire passion, Chandrago, to almost every conceivable aspect of our experience.
Hmm.
From our eyes and ears, the sights and sounds, through the very process of how we think and feel, right down to the elements of existence and the components of self.
And the core message, really, seems to be about the subtle but incredibly profound impact that this kind of clinging desire has on the mind's clarity, and therefore its potential for achieving deep insight and understanding. Overcoming these specific defilements, as these texts frame it, is really presented as a direct path towards higher understanding, towards genuine well-being.
It definitely gives you something to think about. So
Yeah.
maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Just consider for a moment where, in your own experience, maybe in subtle ways you hadn't noticed before, does this desire passions seem to cloud your mind? And what might happen, just as an experiment, if you were to simply observe it when it arises rather than automatically clinging to it or being swept away by it?